thewellnesscouch.com, streaming wellness into your lives. This is Up for a Chat with Cyndi O'Meara, Carren Smith, and Kim Morrison.
Here we are, up for a chat about the hottest topics that are important to you, inspiring you to awaken the change within. I'm Carren Smith.
I'm Kim Morrison.
And I'm Cyndi O'Meara.
And I'm a little bit excited because our beautiful Cyndi's been away travelling the world again, but this time she's been in Namibia, and we can't wait to hear all about it.
Let's just start off with tart.
Tart? Travel tart?
Travel tart.
Travel tart. Jet-setting tart.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and she's in Adelaide even as we speak, so the travelling isn't even over yet.
Give it to us,
No,
Cyndi. What have you been doing?
Well, I just want you to know that you two, being what you're like as far as princess, because remember, I'm Bear Grylls, and you're princesses and tarts, and it was a tough experience. So
even for you.
Yeah. Well, no, I was thinking of you guys. I enjoyed it.
But we probably wouldn't, right?
No way.
I wouldn't have liked it, would I, Cyndi?
No way.
Oh, my God. Tell us. Oh, I can't wait to hear about that.
Let's just say this, that when she sent a photo of herself, when she had landed back in Australia and sent a photo and said, we're home, I went back and went, and you look like you needed to do a face mask. No disrespect, but she looked a bit dry.
Oh, and it was very dry. Oh, my gosh. It was so dry. It was itchy dry. And it's just dust. All I wanted to do when I finished that 3 weeks of camping and hiking and whatever else we did was
shower.
Shower wasn't my biggest thing. Ocean, show me some ocean and let me get in it. A coffee. I swear they have no idea how to make coffee. Nobody knows how to make coffee. And I wanted to roll in green grass, just put my feet in green grass, roll everywhere. Like there was this one place that we went to, and it was called the Rhino campsite. It was in the middle of nowhere. Like to get there, you do 10 kilometres an hour through rock cliffs and amazing scenery.
Oh, yeah.
And they had a patch of grass there, and all I wanted to do was take my shoes off and put my feet on the grass.
Oh, bless.
I would too.
There's not a lot of grass. Do
you know what? I always think that when I go out to Kingaroy or in the Queensland where it's really dry, all I can think of is getting my bare feet onto green grass. It must be the same thing.
Look at Australia is so much like Namibia.
So what made you decide to go there? Out of all the places in the world, of course, you've been just about everywhere by now, but of course, what made you decide to go there?
Well, we have some beautiful South African friends that we have travelled with every year for the last, I think, 5 years, since my 50th birthday, and it was her 50th too. Like, we're only a couple of days apart. And we went to Fiji and had a wonderful time. And it's been since then that, they've invited us to Botswana. We've done Canada together. We've done Europe. We've done Scotland together. And so it was their dream to do Namibia and to do it and go to the remote areas like Cocoland, which is where we went. So it was Howard that really wanted to go, and me, with much resistance, didn't want to go. I wanted to stay home. I don't ever get any time at home. So it was with much resistance that I actually did go. And when I got there, I looked at it and went, oh my gosh, it's like the centre of Australia. I've been there many times. But then it just showed me an amazing side. It gets more like the Kimberleys of Australia. So the Kimberleys are rugged and high mountains and cliff tops and ancient lands and ancient people, people that have lived in those areas for years or have not lost their culture and tradition. And that's what got me, not so much the animals. Like, I love the animals, but what got me was the ancient structures of rock faces, and this is where Homo erectus started. This is where Homo habilis was. This is the beginning of man. Every human being has their roots from this area of the world, from Western Africa, and that's what I think when I realised that, because I hadn't read a thing on Namibia before I left. I didn't have time. I'm too busy reading other things. But this is the beginning of time. This is the beginning of man. This is where we moved from habilis to erectus to Homo sapien. So this is what, and you could see it. You could see this ancient land. And I kept thinking, you know, how did they survive? And I started to read the archaeology and geology and anthropology of the land, and that's what I wanted to go to, the paintings that were in the amazing caves that were scattered around. So for me, it really enhanced what I was doing as a nutritionist. So yeah, that was the beginning for me, was the intriguing and falling in love with the land and the people.
So when you got there and you thought that it was like the middle of Australia, you know, like when you go to the middle of Australia, there are all those beautiful caverns and rock faces and all those beautiful areas that you can go to, and then there's all that Aboriginal artwork that you can see that's being placed on the rock faces. Was it similar to that? Did it tell a story?
Very similar. And yes, it did tell a story. And I had a really weird experience there. And look, people might think that I'm really weird, but they already probably think that. But this was one of. So let me start from when we got there. So the capital is Windhoek. That's where we flew into, and that was where we got our food. And it's very modern, and there's a modern grocery stores and modern mall, and it was like, you know, anywhere else in the world. It had Country Road, and it had Forever You, and, you know, it had Woolworths, and so it was all there. So that was the beginning of Namibia. And then we went down to this huge desert, and there's a place in the desert that breaks where a river used to go through, and it's called Susaflay. And it's down in the southern, like not quite to the southern tip of Namibia, but it's in the southern area of Namibia. And it's this amazing sandhills, red sandhills. And so we spent some time there exploring that, and, you know, being aware that there were animals around. And so we saw a lot of antelope. If you go further south, there's a place called Fish Canyon, and they say that it's second to the Grand Canyon, and you can do a 5-day hike down the Fish Canyon. We didn't get that far, but I intend to go back and do that 5-day hike.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, look, I just think there's water down there, and there's not a lot of water above the surface in Namibia. There's a lot below the surface, a lot like Australia, you know, and animals know how to get to it, and humans knew how to get to it. So that was, you know, intriguing that the whole of Namibia is basically living because of bracken water under the surface rather than above the surface. So they have these huge waterways, like riverways, and at sometimes I thought that I was in the southern part of New Zealand, you know, where those big waterways were, and huge mountains, with no snow though, and no water to be seen. And then you get into a stunning canyon. Like, I didn't get to the second to Grand Canyon, but I got into other canyons, and you're walking through it. It's as dry as a bone, but you could see the history of where the water had been and how deep you got into these canyons. So that's where we started, and then we started to go north along the Skeleton Coast. Now, the Skeleton Coast is the Atlantic Ocean, and it's this barren place. And the reason it's called the Skeleton Coast is the Portuguese, when they would sail down there, they would actually call it Death Sands or something like that. And because they knew if there was a shipwreck and you survived the shipwreck and you got onto the Skeleton Coast, then unless you found one of the outlets where water was coming out and it emerged from the sand, because it just goes under land, they would not survive. They couldn't survive. It was like the moon. So you go from these red sands to a moonscape where nothing could live. There was no plant life. There was nothing. But then there was a seal colony, and then there was human colony, and so that was really interesting, that Skeleton Coast. But it wasn't until we started to go inland from the Skeleton Coast, and we went to a national reserve called Brandenburg, and I have to probably go back in history just a little bit to explain what Brandenburg meant to me. So last year, with beautiful Jess Ainscoe, my father, Talon was there, Yvette was there. So people that we've talked about on the podcast that are very special to us. We went to a conference by a gentleman by the name of, Brian
Weiss.
Many Lives, Many Masks, Brian Weiss.
Brian Weiss, yeah.
Thank you, Brian Weiss. We went to this conference, and it was all about past life experiences. So he did some group past life experiences, and I had an amazing experience at this past life. And the experience was I was wearing furs, so I was in a very, very ancient time. And I remember I was traveling by myself. I wasn't traveling with anybody else, but I would meet tribes as I traveled. And there'll be people right now thinking, okay, she's gone off the loop at this point. But this is what I experienced. That's all I can tell you is it was vivid. It was an amazing experience. But I was traveling by myself. I was wearing furs. And I came into this open land with green grass and white flowers. And this amazing mountain was in front of me. And there was a glacier on the mountain. And it was such a vivid experience. And then the next thing Brian said to me, or said to the group, it felt like he was saying it to me because I only remember this as an experience for me to remember. He said, now I want you to go to your death. And as I went to my death in that lifetime, I couldn't see, all I could see was a whole lot of heads looking down on me as I left my body. And I remember when Jess passed away, I said to Kim, I said, look up, because I want her to remember us when she ever has this past lifetime. You know, this is Jess Ainscough on her deathbed. Look up, because I couldn't see any of the heads when I passed in this lifetime. So Kim's looking up wondering what the hell she's looking at.
Which I just think Jess would have giggled at, I'm just saying.
Yeah, I'm hoping she's giggling and she understands why the two of us looked up. But all I could see were these black heads looking around. But I remember I was a white woman. I wasn't black, I was white. In another lifetime I was black, but in this lifetime I was white. And I remember crying as I'm leaving my body because I'm thinking I don't want to leave. This is an amazing life. This is, which is contrary to what other people talk about. They say they don't want to come back, whereas I'm like going, don't take me now. I've got too much to do, So I get to Brandenburg National Park and I have this, that's the mountain. That is the mountain that I had in my past life.
Oh my God!
And I've never had this before, and I've travelled through Europe, Sweden, Norway, and I've never seen it anywhere. And there it was.
Oh, Cyndi.
It was really, and I kept looking at it, going, "How could it be?" Because this is a dry, desolate land. There ain't no green grass. There's no white flowers. There's no glacier. There's no snow. But that was the mountain. It was just so vivid. So I just kept looking back at it. I kept taking photos of it. I couldn't get close enough to it to really see if it had that same feeling. And I said to Howard, I want to go in there because there were painting in there that I was reading about. I wanted to walk. Apparently there was a valley in there there was a creek and grass. But of course I was traveling with 6 people, and I couldn't say, right, let's just travel another 100K on a dirt road that we can do 10 kilometres on because I want to go in there, But so I didn't get the chance to go in there. So we kept travelling, and we ended up at the rhino camp, which I have to tell you is one of the most magical camps that I went to. This is where I found my patch of green grass that I had to put my feet on. I think the caretaker there had decided, you know, that she wanted a bit of green grass. And she was, I don't know if she was Himba, which is one of the tribes there, but she was, they couldn't speak much English. It was very broken to say, hey, we want to stay here. But it was really cool. And it was there that I started to read about the ancient Brandberg landscape and what it was. And it was glaciers that had created it. And it was but once a lush land. But this was thousands and thousands of years ago. So I'm going in my logical head, I couldn't have been there because I was white. And I'm going in my, anything was possible. You know, we've lived on these lands for thousands and thousands of years. Homo habilis was 1.5 million years ago. Homo erectus ended and Homo sapien started 400,000 years ago. So you can't, we only know so much. And then I'm reading about this painting, and I know this sounds far-fetched, but I'm reading about this painting called The White Lady that has this thing that there's a belief that it was an Egyptian or Mediterranean person that had come down and had lived among the tribes there. So I don't know. You know, it was just one of those moments in time where you think, could that have been real? Could that have been a lifetime? Who knows? So that was pretty cool.
Do you think, Cyndi, that you could have been that white lady? Like, looking at it like that, I remember when you texted me, I got goose pimples. Why on earth were you there? You know, you've got to ask yourself, how did this happen, and why were you there? And it just showed me beyond possibility of doubt that there is no accidents, and if we're open to the possibility or the opportunity of what's before us and seeing beyond our eyes, there's often more messages than we could ever imagine. Is that how you felt?
Yeah, look, it was the weirdest. It was like I'd come home.
Oh, wow.
And I really felt it. I felt, and in the middle of the desert, in a landscape that looked like the moon, but then you had this Brandenburg National Park and this mountain that is beyond belief. It's just, you can actually see that it could have been carved by like wind and rains and snows and glaciers, and it is a granite structure. That's the thing. It is this huge granite structure, and around it there are other mountains and valleys and cliff tops and boulders, and it was just. But even though it wasn't green grass and there was no white flowers and an abundance, what I felt of life, because there wasn't. You didn't see a lot. There was this ancient plant though that they say this plant, and I cannot remember the name of this plant, but it looked like it was half dead. I felt sorry for it, but they called it a plant that has been around for millions of years. It stood in this rocky, cavernous area. So we know that there is an amazing history there. And was I a part of that history in another life? And I don't know, and as you say, Carren, there are no coincidences.
I'm sitting here listening to you, and I think, you know how we get deja vu?
Yes.
And sometimes I'll also dream something that will actually occur weeks or months or even years later, and I'll remember that I dreamt it. And I think to myself, what on earth are we doing dreaming into the future? What is that? And what on earth are we doing having a deja vu where we've experienced this before, whatever it is? And I think that when you look at, and I know that this is really out there, but when you look at quantum theory and quantum physics, it actually says that time doesn't exist on a linear scale. In fact, time exists stacked on top of each other. So in fact, every moment is occurring now. So it's not as if so when you go there and you say, wow, this was in my experience, this was in my visualization, I have seen this before, I have felt this before, there's a home sensation here. I don't have the answers to it, but quantum theory would say that yes, you have been there, yes, you have experienced it. That's why you do have a memory of it, and it's a cellular memory more so than an optical memory or a physical, not a physical, but like a visual memory. It's more on a cellular level, so it has so much more potency to it because the body remembers it. And because from a cellular perspective, you have been there before. It's amazing to think about that, and it's quite a mind blowing way to look at it. But I'm just covered in goosebumps. I'm covered.
It was just I couldn't talk to anybody about it there because they would have thought I was loopy. Even my husband, I'm sure, would have thought, "Oh, come on, Cyndi, that's just not possible." But it was, and he saw me looking back all the time as we were driving away, and he says, "What are you looking at?" And I said, "That mountain. It's just stunning. I love that mountain. There's something about it, or that rock, or that." Yeah, it's and when I was getting into this, and I got into all of this when my mum passed away, and then my sister passed away, and I had all those women leave in that 12-month period. And I started to read about, well, what happens after death? What is this all about? Why, what are we here for? What's the meaning of our life? And so I started to read books. And the first book I read was Michael Newton's book, Journey of the Soul. And then his next book, he has a follow-on book. And then I read Souls Don't Die, or Souls Never Die. And this woman who was a very depressed woman who ended up just watching television all day, and one day a singer came on and sang, and she looked into his eyes, and her depression just disappeared, and she thought, what has happened? Why did I feel something about this man? And so she started to research past lives for some reason, and she ended up finding out that the town that she lived in many years ago was in England, and her and her husband, they were American, and her and her husband decided to go to this town in England. And she said she knew where everything was in this town. She knew where the church was that she got married into this man. And look, it was just, she talked about this, and her husband was just blown away the way she would go, down this road is this church, and down here is this house that looks like this, and they would go down, and he knew she'd never been to England. So, there was record of people experiencing this. There's a record of a young man that lives today that he talks about, he was drawing photos of fighter pilots and of planes and names of planes and names of boats, and he was obsessed with this at the age of 7. And one day his father decided to look up the names of these boats and planes, and he found out that they were in a battle in World War I. And he would talk about, this young boy would talk about all these men, and he found out that some of these men were still alive, and their names were as he said. So we actually, have, document.
Oh, it's getting a bit of a sketchy line.
Yeah, look, it is. It is. So who knows? You're talking about quantum physics. We're talking about actual people alive today that have said this. And I just had that feeling. And I've never had that feeling anywhere that I've gone, that I had come home, that there was something about this place. There was, and I knew I'd been there before, but I kept my analytical and mind was going, but you couldn't have been. There's no green grass here, Cyndi. There's no white flowers. And how could have green grass have grown on this desolate land? But then when I read the archaeology of it, I kind of went, well, it's possible. It was a tropical haven. It was where modern man started. He had to and I was wearing furs. It was cold.
Cyndi, you were talking previously about the barrenness of the land and that plant that you can't remember the name of. And instantly to my mind, I thought of oils or plants like frankincense and myrrh, which do not look like the most attractive plants. They almost look dead in a way. And yet through the harshness, I guess, of their environment, the deepest, most soulful, most phenomenal oils can come from these trees. Can you tell us about the experience you had with the distillery whilst you were there?
Yeah, that was just amazing. So I had been with the Himba tribe, so we had gone into Cocoa Land, and Cocoa Land most people don't go in there. It's hard to get into. It's days of driving at 10 kilometres an hour through riverbeds. And I had learnt about these people called the Himbas, which I'd never read about. I didn't know anything about them. And they're a race that they say has only been in Namibia for probably 200 to 300 years. And they believe they've come from Egypt, that area, so the Mediterranean, and they made their way through Africa slowly but surely. As more and more lands became desertified, they had to move further down. So am I saying 200 years or 2,000 years? Like now I've lost. Yeah, I think it was 2,000 years that they came down. So the Himba tribe use these resins that they find on these ancient trees. And I had heard that they used ochre, the fat of the goat. They'll use the butter fat of the goat, and they used everyone would say it was a herb that they would use to put onto their skin every single day. So the women would spend 3 hours getting themselves ready, putting this red fat with a herb on their body. And I tell you, they need it because it is so dry over there. They need it, I'm sure. They have stunning skins, absolutely. I can't say alabaster because it's not white, but it's a black, beautiful, shiny redness to their skin. And they put dreadlocks in their hair, and they put this red fat with this herb through their hair. And I was trying to find, well, what is the herb that they're using? Like, what is the tree? What is the plant that they're using? And I got to a place called Apua. Now, Apua is like going into a Mad Max movie, I swear. You walk through the town, there are people in this town that are either dressed in Himba with nothing on their breasts, the women red as anything, wearing ancient outfits that don't show any of their skin, versus other women wearing these outfits that were inspired by the German missionaries that cover them from from the tip of their head to their feet. And they're you look like you're in an 1850 Western movie where they're wearing these very colourful, though not brown, but colourful long dresses with petticoats underneath, completely covered, and then they're wrapped in this amazing scarf that goes past their head by double their head space in these pointers. It was like, I swear it was a Mad Max movie. And then there was anything in between. So there were women that just put a bra on in their Himba outfits. I swear I was in a Mad Max movie, and we were the only whites in town. There were no other whites in town.
How did they embrace you? How did they accept and embrace you?
How did they embrace us? The minute we got out, just flocked. Buy this, buy that, buy this, like.
Yeah.
Oh, it was. Yeah, but then there were people that just were walking along the town. Like you'd see like a Himba woman with a woman that was fully dressed, and then a man that was dressed in his Himba gear with this, and the man with their hair, and they wear these amazing head dresses, the women, and then the men with their hair just have like they shave the rest of their head, but they have this really long piece that they have flicked up. And it just looks like something out of Mad Max. It's just
Did you feel safe, Cyndi? Did you feel like it was a safe place to visit?
Never ever. So, except maybe when I needed to go to the toilet in the middle of the night and I knew there were lions out there.
Oh,
So you dropped out just a little bit then, Cyndi.
Yeah.
Did you say you felt safe most of the time, except for when you went for a pee?
Yeah, except for when I would pee at night, I was scared of the lions.
oh, bless.
I think most
was the
people
only
would be.
You know, when we were living in South Africa, when we were kids, there was national service in play. And the 16-year-old boys all had to go into national service. And they would go and fight in Namibia at the front lines there. Was there any evidence of it being a war-torn area? Did you see any of that?
Well, where they were, when we went to, we went near it, we weren't exactly there, was the border of Angola and Namibia.
Right.
And
We went to a place called a Pupa, and a Pupa Falls they could not have fought there because they would never have got past the waterway because there were crocodiles.
Oh, God.
Oh, yeah, we went for a walk. We decided to go for a walk and we came across a very big crocodile.
Oh, hell.
Yeah, but that's another story. So just if we go, if we went east,
Carren, can you just see her? The next minute she's doing a bloody Steve Irwin. She's wrestling this thing.
Death roll.
Just picture death roll. Oh my!
you can't swim in the water because there's crocodiles or sharks in the ocean. You can't. Although I did swim, I must admit, I had to swim. And I swam with dolphins, so there were dolphins in the bay when I was there.
Oh,
you cannot pee at night because there's lions and leopards and elephants and hyenas.
Do they not have special people protecting the park with a gun? Like we had Willis. We had Willis walking everywhere with a gun when we peed everywhere.
But you got to remember where we went we weren't in a national reserve. We were in Cocoland. We were on the Harezib River. Nobody goes there. It's where the Himbas live in total isolation. There were animals in some parts of the river, so we saw elephants and a lot of deer or what do they call antelope, things like that. But
did you actually have a gun with you guys? Like
no guns, nothing. We weren't there.
Did you have hair irons?
I had a torch.
Kimmy, she doesn't use a straightening iron when she's home.
I cannot believe you're in the middle of a.
Were you showering? This is a question. Were you clean?
Well, in the end, I had to stop showering because
right.
Yeah, I had to stop showering because they use Bracken water. It's high in calcium carbonate. It made my skin itch. I became a Himba woman. Himba women do not shower. They just put the fat and the red ochre over them every day.
Nice.
So I just used my coconut oil. I took my coconut oil and I would just, do a sponge bath where I needed to do a sponge bath, and then I would add more coconut oil to the next layer.
It's not a bad thing, really. And did you add essential oils or things like that, or was
Definitely.
it just not?
I had all your essential oils, and I picked up this beautiful essential oil. So that's where this whole story was going to is that I wanted to know what were they using. I had seen how they got this resin. It was this resin from the tree and they couldn't tell me because they couldn't speak English. So I didn't. I could just see this, like you said, this. You preface this, Kim, with myrrh and frankincense comes from. I don't know where frankincense comes from. I can only tell you now where myrrh comes from. But it's this stubbly looking tree that just lives in the middle of nowhere. And it exudes this sap that turns into a resin. And the Himba women collect this resin and they use it in their they smoke it in their homes. And I don't mean smoke it, but use it as an incense in their home. They put it in that butter ochre mix that they rub onto their skin. And by the way, I was with Himba women and there was no smell. They smelt absolutely neutral, if not beautiful. And so anyway, I get to this town that looks like Mad Max. I've walked into a scene of Mad Max, and it's called Apua. Stay in the Apua Lodge, which is high up on a hill. And I noticed on the front desk, so, you know, we've got a little bit of luxury. So I noticed up on the front desk that there's this place called Sense of Namibia. And I look at it and I think, I want to go there. So I said to Howard, I want to go to Sense of Namibia. I had no idea what it was about, but I was intrigued by it. So I've got this mud map, and you only have mud maps there, how to mud map, and we're in the middle of nowhere and we're turning down these turns, and Howard's going, are you sure you've got the right place? And I said, I don't know, but this is the way I've got to go. And we end up, like I said, in the back of Apua, turning down all these dirt tracks, and we end up, and there's this place that I come to that is like an oasis, and you walk into it and it is just done with perfection, as far as they've used the rocks and the trees to make this oasis of a place. And there's this smell that exudes from it. And they create essential oils. So let me explain why this place was created. So the Himba women collect this resin from this tree, and I'm sorry, but I've forgotten the name of the tree, but I can get that name. And it starts with O, because everything starts with O over there. So I would say to my husband, I would go, we're going to this place that starts with O. I could never say what it said, but it's this tree that starts with O. And what had happened is they collect this resin, and it's myrrh. It's frankincense and myrrh. That's what this resin is. And they would send it to Paris, and Paris would create the essential oil myrrh. And then they decided that a lot of the wealth from myrrh was being sent out of the country, and that there was money that was needed for the Himba women, and that they would create a distillery in the middle of Apua. And there were 3 beautiful Himba men there that were running it. So they would go out into the community. The women would collect the mopani leaves, and they would make a mopani oil and the resin from this tree, and they would make myrrh. And that was their 2 commodities, and that's all. It was just mopani oil and the essential oil, and the myrrh essential oil. And the myrrh, I can't remember, I did send it to you, Kim, the exact amount of resin that would need to be collected to create 4.5 litres.
Well, you've got here, it needed 35 kilograms of mopani to make 450 mils of oil and 50 kilograms of resin for 4.5 litres of myrrh. You purchased 10 mils for $5. That's insane.
It is, for $5.
That's amazing.
And, you know, you think about if it had gone to Paris, and what would we buy? Kim, what do we buy myrrh at? You would know.
Myrrh sits in the $50 mark for 10 mils, at least, minimum, 50 to 100, depending on which one. So, yeah.
So
10 parts.
I used myrrh and coconut oil, Kim.
Oh, you couldn't have used a better. You couldn't have used a better product. You couldn't have used better things. I mean, Carren, even as a beauty therapist, you would know that sometimes getting back to those real raw. I mean, that's where the most therapeutic value is, when it's instantly extracted. Coconut oil, you can't get much better than that as a skin treatment. I mean, we're going to start calling you Himba Girl.
No longer am I going to be Bear Grylls. I'm Himba Girl.
Oh no. I think you're always going to be Bear Grylls. I think you'll be Himba Bear.
Or Himba Bear or Bear Himba.
Yeah, yeah.
But I have to tell you, this community project was really, look, I just loved it. And the gentleman, he could speak beautiful English that showed us around. And he showed us a video of them going out into the communities and collecting the resin from these women and the mapani leaves. And then he showed us the distillery. And it was a very basic distillery. Like, it was just, a small room, like the size of a very small bedroom. And there were, I'm trying to think, 3 stainless steel canisters. And he showed us, when he had heated up the mapani leaves and the smell of the mapani leaves when they were heated, it's very much like a tea tree smell. So it's used as an antiseptic. But when you look at the medicinal purposes of the myrrh, and I bought you guys, by the way, I bought you a bottle of each of the myrrh and the mapani. Yeah, because and they make lippies and scented perfumes with the myrrh. And for the most part, they were good ingredients. There were some that I stayed away from. I thought, if I brought that back to Kim, she'd kill me.
But myrrh is used through the history of time for cracked skin, broken skin, dry skin, skin that needs healing. It is such a, and combine that with frankincense, and you have the most it's amazing, isn't it? Well, it's not amazing. Those two and the mapani for antiseptic. Think about it, out in the middle of that desert, like an environment. Those are the things as a human being that you would certainly be calling on to support your body, skin, and health.
And they just naturally and instinctively know it, which is the part that I think is, just it's magical. It's magical. Yeah, they know.
Look, and that's the thing that we see it as, like, think about Jesus Christ. Yeah. When he was born, the kings bought frankincense, myrrh, and what was the third one?
Gold.
Gold
was the gift, the 3 gifts to Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and here I was in a land where humans began, and myrrh was one of their main things that they used for many purposes. But the Himbas, I have to tell you, their diets were, I always talk about culture and tradition and diet. So let's talk about their diet and how they used roots of trees to make porridges. And then a lot of the trees, such as the mapani and this other one that made myrrh, they knew how to find this on their land that was becoming a desert, and they were herders. So all they ate was dairy. They ate dairy and meat of the herd.
Can I ask you a question on that, Cyndi? Then, if that's the case, if
they herded goat and this weird-looking sheep, yeah.
Sorry, darling, we're losing you a little bit there, but I just wanted to ask you, from a point of view of the paleo lifestyle, then, where people are saying that they didn't eat dairy and things like that, it sounds to me like dairy has been around for a long, long time. Can you just explain why it is so beneficial, or why it was so beneficial as opposed to not having it?
Well, they would use the root of a tree to ferment dairy. So they actually fermented the dairy. They would drink it raw, but for the most part, they would use this root of a tree to ferment the dairy. And they would make it so that it would last, number one, and probably nutrition, number two. But they wouldn't have known it was nutrition, but that's just what they did. They also fermented their meat, by the way. They dried and fermented their it was so at the Apua Lodge, and there was a sign up that said, and it was a beautiful sign, and I actually talked about it in one of my Instagram posts, that it said it was a soul kitchen, and it was a kitchen from the Himba, and there were foods that were coming, out. It was a traditional kitchen. So I'm like going, yay! And there was a smorgasbord that night, and I'm thinking, great, I'm going to have mapani bugs and goat meat and fermented milks. And so I was really excited about this. This is what it said in the front of the lodge, and I got, me being a nutritionist, got very excited by this. And I get there and I look at the smorgasbord, and it looks like, what's that place here in Australia that you go to and you pay $10 all you can eat?
It's Sizzler.
Sizzler.
Sizzler! Yeah. It looked like freaking Sizzler.
Awesome.
And I go,
awesome.
Except there was some game meat. There was, I think kudu was in there, and maybe elan, and some springbok was there. So there was some game meat there, but there was just desserts that looked like something coming out of a confectionery place. And oh my gosh, I was just, and I went up to the chef and I went, where's the soul food? Where's the and anyway, it ended up being the owner that was standing there, and the owner said to me, Westerners wouldn't eat that. And I said, but I would. I want a mapani bug, And then he goes, oh, my gosh, you would get sick on the Himba food. And I went, why? And so then he explained the whole fermentation of the meat and the fermentation of the dairy. And all I could think of was, no, I'm going to get sick on this Western food that you're providing. I'm not going to get sick on the Himba food, And it was just hysterical.
So nothing vegan.
A Mad Max.
Nothing vegan then. So no, right.
No.
You could go. Hey, Kaz, you could go out and eat with the elephants and the antelope. They eat grass.
Yeah, I'd eat the grass that everybody's peed on because there was only one patch of it. So
Cyndi, can you tell us the whole 3.5, 4 weeks you're away? What are the greatest lessons you learned, and how can you apply that to our everyday life? What can you teach us that you took away that you would never have known or thought of had you not done this trip?
I think everything for 30-something years about anthropology, culture and tradition.
No, we're going to need her to start that again.
Yeah.
She has to start again because none of us heard any of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So for me, it cemented the past 30 years and anthropology.
Oh, hang on, sweetie. Have you moved? Because we need you back. This is like the $1 million answer.
Yeah.
Hear it. Okay. Shall we try again?
Go
Okay,
stand near a window. Go stand near a window.
Okay. Shall do.
Oh, that's better.
Can you hear me now? I'm standing by a window.
Yes.
Okay. So
Hold
what
hands
it
up
did
at
for
words.
me...
Stick your tongue out. Hold your hands up in the air.
And now rub your belly when you're talking.
All right.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, so what it did for me was cement 30 years of learning. And that was learning of anthropology and the importance of culture and tradition, what past lives are all about. So for me, it was just cementing everything I've learned over the last 30 years. It was like a culmination of all my learning was sitting there in Namibia, teaching me important and what was not important. But what was really amazing was that I had no jet lag. And I believe it's because I went from Windenhook straight into the outdoors, into nature, and the moon and the stars were my light. There was the fire was my light. For 1.5 million years, we've used fire for our light, an orange light. I was in no blue light. I just completely, my
circadian rhythms turned immediately to the way they should have been, where it was the exact opposite to Australia. We were 12 hours difference, basically. So when you were sleeping, I was awake, and when I was awake, you were sleeping. So the whole circadian rhythm thing, the whole culture and tradition, everything just came together at that time in that 3 weeks.
And you got to touch on all things, Kaz and I. You got to experience, obviously, different cultures and different ways of thinking. And you probably, well, you did. You had moments where you were just in your own little world and your own little quantum physics experiences. You got to experience amazing oils that from its absolute rawest state. So you had me there with you. And you actually got to really be at one with nature and pee with lions and talk to the elephants. And so just give us a little bit more around. I'm just trying to still get my head around how you toileted and how you kind of, I know you kept clean with the oils and the coconut, but I mean, were you just, if there was no anthills or things, how did you do number 2s and things? I mean, just give me a little bit around that. I'm just trying to get my head around that.
Do we have to do that? It was such a beautiful show. There was so much bliss in the show, and now it's been reduced to poo.
Well, I could have gone the other way and said, and did you enjoy any romantic interludes in those moments while you're out in the middle of the forest? I mean, you can out in the middle of the desert. You can give us either if you like.
Oh, good griefliness.
And did you have your whiskey every night? I'm just asking. Maybe it's the whiskey that helps you have the romantic interludes, and therefore you don't mind going for a pee or a poo. I'm just asking.
Oh, I never did. To all our listeners, I apologise in advance.
I'll tell you about this one place that we went to. We were in like if there was rain happening anywhere, we would have been flooded out because we were in this river bed. We were staying in this river bed. So we were all camped up, and there was a thought that there would be lions around. So everybody was saying, be very careful if you decide to get up to go to the toilet. And Howard had, being the Bear Grylls, Mr. Bear Grylls, he had in the daylight dug a huge hole, put rocks around it, toilet paper on a stick, and said that's where we will be doing our number 2s, and that's where the 6 of us would go. That would be a place where we'd go.
So sorry, I just missed a part. Did you dig a hole?
Yeah, Howard dug the hole. He dug the hole with to do this, because you don't want to leave your mark anywhere. You want to be camping where you do not disturb the environment. You're in an environment that is not being disturbed. And so you want to do as low impact camping as you possibly can. And so this is what we would have done that, and we that, and you can pee anywhere, it doesn't matter. But number 2, we made sure that we cleaned it away and packed it away, and nobody knew where it was. So anyway, it's the middle of the night, we're in the middle of nowhere, and for some reason our car decides to start doing the the horn starts going off.
Oh, no.
No idea why it's going off. Of course, everybody thinks that there's something happening in our because our car, we sleep on top of the car because you want to be away from animals. So your tent is on top of the car.
Oh,
so of course everybody's.
Oh no, you didn't tell us this.
What do you mean? Are you talking a Ford sedan, or are you talking like a ute? Give me what?
A 4-wheel drive. So we had a 4-wheel drive, and the tent's on top of the 4-wheel drive.
Really? And you think a lion's not going to get you up there?
Well, you have a ladder, a very thin ladder, and there's no way it can get up there. So you get a ladder, and it's the only way you get up and down is with this ladder. So no, it can't get up there.
In one jump, it can't get up there. Like in a big jump, it can't.
Well, apparently it's not done it to anything.
Kaz, we'd be the first.
God.
If we were there, we'd have been gone. They would have gone, let's eat that tasty little white morsel up there. Asleep.
Yeah.
So anyway, what ends up happening is the horn starts going off, and it's like 4 a.m, and I'm hanging out for a pee. And I said to Howie after the horn went going, I went, well, there'll be no lions or any animals around now. So I just got down, went to the toilet and got back up again.
Oh, my
And the whole camp, because the whole camp is just, there's only 3 vehicles. So there was only 6 of us there, so 3 couples. The whole camp just went, oh, my gosh, we're in the middle of nowhere and the horn starts going off and, yeah. Oh. So there you go. You've got number 2. You've got where the thought that something was happening up there because that was what was moving the car. So there you go, Kimmy.
The shaggin' wagon. So girls, Cyndi, this is amazing. What's kind of like got me fired up a little bit is the fact that the 3 of us are going on an adventure next year. And it's going to be obviously different. I dare say there'll be a lot more grass than this, but Machu Picchu is coming up for us. What do you think we're going to be able to take away experiencing something like that together with the people that are coming with us? How do you think this will differ, or are there similarities, or what would be your thoughts around that?
Well, number 1, circadian rhythms. They will understand the circadian rhythms and how well people will sleep. So, and just, I don't know, there is something magical about getting into nature and getting into old cultures, because the South American culture is, of course, an old culture as well. There are still people in South America that have not seen white people and live in a very ancient way and still live through culture and tradition. There's also that spiritual aspect of South America. So it'll be really interesting to see if anybody feels what I felt in Namibia. I never expected what I felt in Namibia. It wasn't even deja vu. It wasn't that feeling of deja vu. It was a knowing. Mm-hmm. So for our people, I'm hoping for the same experience, just on a different continent, because remember that Africa and South America were once joined, and there is proof that joining was there. So that will be. I know I'm really looking forward to that 2 weeks that we will have there.
I can't wait. In fact, actually, for everybody who's listening to the show, we've actually got 2 spots that are still available. If anybody wants to still come along, honestly, we have to actually close off the bookings at the end of July. So we can't take any more people after the end of July. So if anybody is keen to come on board with us, all you need to do is send me an email. To send it through to me personally at info@carrensmith.com, and it's CARRENSMITH.com, just in case you guys don't know how to spell my name yet. So have a think about that. Send me an email and I can send you some more information of it. Again, there's only 2 spots going. So a husband and wife would be great if you want to have a bit of a holiday. We've got a handful of people coming who are then going to go on to South Africa, Cyndi. Yeah. Well, actually, one particular couple's going to South Africa and another one's coming and then going on to Spain. So... Yeah. So there's a handful of people who are joining us that are actually going to make a big holiday out of it. So it's going to. I think that would be just fascinating to go to Machu Picchu and then on to South Africa. It'd be extraordinary.
Oh my gosh! I actually cannot wait. I bought my Kathmandu jacket the other day. I'm just saying because there was a special on, and I cannot imagine that we will all be in that exquisite part of the world. And Cyndi, I can imagine you sharing stories with us the whole time we're going around and giving us analogies and absolutely giving comparisons and similarities. I can't wait to be under the stars with you both and to truly, I cannot begin to tell you how much my heart and soul is craving it, but also how much I am so excited about sharing it with 2 of my absolute besties on the planet, and it's the special souls that are coming with us. Oh my gosh, I'm excited as. Can't wait.
Yeah. So it's May next year, isn't it?
Yes, it's the end of May through to the beginning of June. So it's 10 days. And we are flying from Australia. We're flying from Sydney to South America. We've got, I can't remember, but there's Santiago, Lima and Cusco. And then we do the trek, and we've got 4 days on the trek, staying in exclusive little lodges. Yes, we are.
No rooftop beds here at this place.
Oh, no. There shall be no camping. No, we shan't be camping. No, we don't rough it, not when Kazza comes along. So we've got these beautiful cobblestone lodges that we're staying in, and they're exclusive just for us, so nobody else is staying in them. We've got all the beds booked, and then we're trekking along on our own little Inca trail with our very own special guides. So it's quite stunning. And then we fly back into Cusco, and then I can't quite remember the itinerary from there, but we've got Cyndi taking us to markets. We've got spectacular food and restaurants that we're going to. We've got shopping days. Yes, we have. It's absolutely going to be spectacular. And then we get this magical time at the top of Machu Picchu where all the tribes used to live, and the kings had their beautiful palaces. And then we've got a beautiful meditation period that I'm going to take us all through, where it's going to be quite a transcendental experience. So for people who are looking for an opportunity to go beyond themselves in an environment that is totally spiritually infused, that's what this is really going to be. It's going to be profound.
And I have been working on a special blend that every single participant will get to take with them. So I'm actually creating a special South American Machu Picchu essential oil blend that we will all take with us, that we can use as our anchor into this experience.
Yay! How excitement! Oh, stop! It sounds too good. And Kimmy, you need to let us know about any training we need to do, girlfriend.
Get your butts out there and just keep walking. Walk. Use hills, use stairs, okay, I will get something together for you, but at the meantime, just get your legs and body used to long walks and just constantly knowing what it feels like in different shoes and finding out that's your homework. Those of you that are coming with us is to start really acknowledging the different clothing and the things that you feel comfortable. Start Googling what people wear on these treks. You want layers, but you want light layers. So, your icebreakers, your Kathmandus, they have all these beautiful, very light, but they're actually very warm clothing, but you also can take off layers. So that's the whole key to it, is to make sure we're layering lightly.
Cool.
And no stilettos, Carren.
Damn, I was actually wondering about what I would wear in shoes. Just means I'm going to have to go and purchase me a fabulous little number. Maybe some hiking boots. Yes.
And if you are going to purchase hiking boots, purchase them 6 months before and start walking in them and wear them in. Make sure that there's no blisters, Miss Carren.
Oh, God, could you imagine the whinging? Could you imagine the complaining? Cyndi, can you carry me?
What's your recommended hiking boot, Cyndi? What's your recommended make?
Well, there's some really good ones out there. So I have Merrill, but Casey, my daughter, she bought herself a pair of Solomon, loves them. And then my girlfriend, Ricky, who I do a lot of hiking with, she's got Keens and she loves those. So it's a matter of going to Kathmandu or Mountain Design or Anaconda and
not
just
Dolce.
Yeah. No. We're not going to Dolce Gabbana. And we're not going to, what's that one?
Prada. Sergio Rossi.
No,
which one?
It's a double-barreled name. Jimmy Choo. Jimmy Choo's.
I love it.
So I would just get there and start, if you haven't got some hiking boots, and walk in them, and even put a backpack on your back and get used to having some weight, like add rocks all the time and start doing mountains. Because remember, we are way above sea level. We are not at sea level. And it's important that you realize this and maybe even do some higher mountain climbing. So if you live in Victoria and you're coming, go and do some mountain climbing in Victoria. Maybe if you're in Queensland, go up towards the granite belt somewhere and do some hiking. And if you're in Sydney, go to the Blue Mountains maybe. I'm not sure.
Yeah, because that's one thing that I noticed, or I read, that a lot of people get altitude sickness because it is so high. But they do have, interestingly enough, they do have a spray that one can spray into one's mouth. It is a cocaine derivative, I have heard, that it stops the altitude sickness, and they make it available to all tourists. Yes, they do. So I think it's probably best that we prepare ourselves prior so that we're not spraying foreign objects into our lungs.
Hydrate.
Yeah.
Hydration is one of the most important things with altitude sickness. So just make sure we're all hydrated, and we'll do the best that we can. And it's sometimes it's hit and miss. I've seen husband and wives go up Kilimanjaro and the husband can't make it, but the wife does. Yet he's fit and she's not. So it's got nothing to do with fitness. So hydration is one of the most important things, and so we'll just make sure that this will go out to all the participants.
And there is a private Facebook group for everybody who is already booked in to go. There's a private Facebook group that everybody's in. So, yeah, cool.
Nice.
All right, awesome.
Well,
okay.
Wonderful. Well, we'll chat about it. So we've only got 2 places left.
Yes, we've got 2 places left. We can take 15, and we've got 13, including all of us. So we've got 2 spots left to join us on the trek. Yeah.
Beautiful. Can't wait.
Awesome.
Welcome home, Cyndi, baby.
Welcome, yes. Congratulations on your beautiful trip.
Thank you. I loved it.
I can't wait to get my Prezi because it's all about me.
When I'm home, you'll get it.
We missed you.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to getting home.
Yeah.
She didn't say she missed us. I didn't notice the reciprocal there.
Oh, you don't miss the trick, do you?
Oh, she doesn't, does she? But no. You know that I've missed you all. I always miss home base, and you're part of my home base.
Good girl. Nice. You got it in.
We like it. All right, everybody. Hopefully you've loved this podcast as much as we've loved doing it for you. Make sure that you go to our Facebook page at allthews.facebook.com/up-for-a-chat and post your comments there. If you guys are interested in coming to Machu Picchu with the beautiful Kim, Cyndi and myself, then go to send me an email at info@karensmith.com, and I'll send you more information on the pricing, the payment plan, all that sort of jazz. You can also post your comments at allthews.thewellnesscouch.com/up-for-a-chat. So join us here next week on Up for a Chat and become part of the ripple effect that's changing the world. We just love hanging out with you on the ride. See you next week, everybody. Bye for now.
This has been a production of TheWellnessCouch.com. Check us out on Facebook and join in the conversation on Facebook.com/TheWellnessCouch. Subscribe to each show on iTunes and check us out on Twitter. The Wellness Couch, streaming wellness into your lives. Whilst the Wellness Couch presenter endeavor to provide accurate and helpful information to their listeners, these podcasts cannot take into account individual circumstances and are not intended to be a substitute for health and medical advice from a qualified health professional. You should always seek the advice of a qualified health professional before acting on any of the information provided by any of the Wellness Couch podcasts.